In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to take an image of a presentation board, much like you guys probably did last semester or in Graphics 1 and Graphics 2, and take these images and these material swatches and everything that you added to a presentation board and create a digital presentation board, something for your portfolio out of it. And so, as you can see with this picture, the quality of some of these photos, just due to the glare and taking it probably from a phone, didn't do a whole lot of justice to these images. And so we're going to take some time and try and rearrange this board to make it a little bit more visually pleasing. And throughout this, I'm going to probably use a little bit of everything that we've talked about in all the videos leading up to this. So I'm more just going to tell you guys what I'm doing rather than explaining how to do what I'm doing, because there will be videos that explain how to use each of these tools that I'm more than likely going to use to put this together. So I've taken and given myself a black background just because it kind of makes it easier to work with for me. You can see what I'm doing. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take these pictures here that I've got, and I am going to cut them out and I'm going to add them to a new presentation board. So I don't have my new presentation board set up yet, so I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to go to File, Open, whoops, not File, Open, File, New. And I'm going to do this on an 11 by 17. I already have it set up because I've been working on these before. For my portfolio, I'm going to change my orientation to the long ways, and I'm not going to mess with the resolution or anything like that. So an 11 by 17 board, and I'm going to create that. And so here I have my empty presentation board that I'm going to use to bring my new images and materials over onto this board. So I'm going to first start with cutting out these images. So I'm going to use my rectangular marquee tool just because I think that'll be the most effective, and cut these out and take them over to my new board. So all I did was just copy and paste these images. That way I still have everything over on this page as well. Sorry, you can probably hear the birds outside my window. Oh, make sure this layer is selected. Copy and paste. So you can see that all of these came in on their own layer, which is actually going to be helpful for me because when I go to edit them, it's going to edit just the one layer that I'm on. And so I'm going to rename these so that way I know which layer I'm working with. So elevation. This is, we'll call this perspective 1. We'll call this one perspective 2. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to just mess with my images for now. So I'm going to come back over to this screen here. And with this one in particular, it's really gray. It's kind of hard to make out the details, and we've got this label here that I'm not really loving. So I'm going to try and remove that to make this just an image itself. Another thing that I kind of want to do is I want to straighten this image because when you take it in, you know, by a photograph, it's more than likely going to be a little bit warped and not super straight. So to do that, I'm going to go to my, need to remember where my ruler tool is. Here it is, my ruler tool, and I'm going to take the corner of that, drag to the corner of that, and straighten layer. Whoops. See, I just made a mistake. My elevation was still selected, and so that straightened up my elevation, which is fine. But I'll need to do it again because I didn't have the correct layer selected. So straighten layer. Oh, still the wrong one. Look at that. Straight there. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to these ones and fix those because that more than likely was not correct. Edit, redo. I want to. Straighten layer. I'm going to go to my elevation. Straighten there. Okay, so now that all of those are straight, I am going to try and change the quality and vibrance of these photos. So what I'm going to do first is just go to my auto commands here on my image bar. So do auto contrast. So that already makes a really big difference. You can actually kind of see the image a little bit better. I'm going to go in and mess with, see what auto color does. Image adjustments. Let's go to brightness contrast. Brighten it a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Much better than what it did. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same things for these ones. Image, auto contrast, auto color. And you can use more than one auto command at the same time. Brightness up a little bit. Contrast. And this is on top of the, this is me adding an additional contrast to what Photoshop has already done as the auto contrast. So, okay. I'm gonna mess with this one. I'm gonna make him a little bit bigger just to see what I'm working with here. Image, whoops, I gotta press enter after my free transform. Auto contrast, didn't do a whole lot, but that's because this is kind of a different looking image. So let's go to brightness contrast, brighten it up a little bit, and increase the contrast. So, all right. So already those look so much better. And then the next thing that I want to do is I want to just crop these to where I don't see this little red border around them. So I'm just going to go to my crop tool and that's weird. I don't know what's happening there. So I'm going to escape out of that. I'm going to not use my crop tool. Instead, I'm going to use my eraser tool and make sure it's set to a hard round one. Make it a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to trim the edges off of this. There's not a right or wrong way to do this. This is just how I'm going to do it in this instance because sometimes the crop tool for me is a little wonky. So, and to make these straight lines, I'm just holding down on Shift, and that's allowing me to create a straight line. All right, not bad with that one. The only thing that we're working with now is this little cut elevation thing, so we'll mess with that in a little bit. And I'm gonna do the same thing to these ones. Trim off this red outside border and really make these perfect squares. Oops. And the same thing with this one. Okay, so now that I've got those borders taken off, I'm going to make these a little bit smaller because I don't need to be that large anymore. Oops. All right, and now I'm going to work to get rid of these titles here that they had put on their photos. And again, this student didn't do anything wrong. I'm just using this as an example to change what they had done to make this look more like an image rather than something on a Photoshop board. So just wanted to clarify that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my content aware tool and see if that is going to do what I need it to do. So I'm going to go to my lasso tool. I'm going to select, I want to ensure first that this layer is selected. Go to my polygonal lasso tool here. Select elevation. I'm going to go to edit, fill, content aware. I think I did a pretty good job. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. But as you can see here, because I had more than the image selected, it filled wherever my selection was. So I'm just going to clean that up real quick. Select my layer and a little bit closer and edit that back to where it was. Okay, sweet. That one was pretty easy. It didn't have a lot to think about. Photoshop did it. So those are normally the easiest ones when you're doing a content aware. So this one's probably going to be a little bit harder just because it is so much of the photo. Move those out of the way. All right, now I'm going to work with this one. Let's try and do the same thing with that one. This time I'm going to use my rectangular marquee tool and just select a little bit outside of it. And let's see what this does. Don't have a lot of faith in it, but we will see what it does. Edit, fill, content aware. Yeah, that's not necessarily what we want, but that's okay because we are going to use some other tools to fix that. So let's see what I can do here. The vent hood doesn't look that bad. I'm more than likely probably just going to make this to where this whole wall is blue here and assume that, oh no, see, because I got this beam back here. This one's going to be a little bit trickier. I'm going to do my clone stamp tool, change my brush back to normal, and then make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to do an Alt select. I'm going to kind of fill this in blue for now. I know that doesn't look the best, but and again, this is something that if you guys were gonna do, this would definitely take a lot of time to, you know, really edit this photo. But there's a bunch of ways that you can do that. If I wanted to bring this beam out farther, excuse me, I would just kind of need to bring my line up there, make my guy a little smaller. And again, I am definitely not a professional. I'm just a student like you guys. So forgive me if you would do something differently, then absolutely go for it. And I'll clean up my edges too, like I did for the last one. So my beam doesn't look too bad there. And I am, for the sake of this video, going to blend, oops, just gonna kind of blend all this out. Okay, again, like I said, for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and leave this as it is. If this were y'all's image, I would suggest trying to pull this beam out here and maybe use some copy paste, clone stamp tool, healing stamp tool, etc. and try and get this. Or what you could have done is just left the labels on to begin with and not try to mess with it that much. But in this instance, I'll just kind of show you guys a way to do that. And so I'm just going to clean this up real quick, and then we're going to call it good on these images and move on to the materials that they have on their board. Whoops, it's a little bit too far down. Okay. Again, so not the best, however, spend a little bit more time, maybe, 20, 30 minutes on this image, and it would look really good. So, but again, like I said, for the sake of time in this video, I'm going to leave it like that. And here we have 3 new-ish looking images without the labels. They look very clean, very even, very much like they are a digital image on this Photoshop board at least. So that is how to clean up your images. And now what I'm going to do is come back over to my board here, and I'm going to do the same thing with these here. However, I'm not going to try and, actually I probably would be able to take the text out of those ones. This might be easier because the content is going to be a little bit less detailed, I guess. So. Whoops. Select that. Again, these selections are not perfect. However, it's better to select more than what you need than not, because you can always trim, crop, erase, etc. So there's always something that you have the option to do. Okay, now we're going to work with these. And I brought them over here. They're their own images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. Work with this one first. So as you can see, he's on top of the other image because I brought him in later. And same thing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to straighten it, I'm going to content aware fill to get this label off of here, and then we'll have, again, like brand new materials. So let's straighten. Oh, I can never remember where the ruler tool is at. Make sure that what you're wanting to work with is selected, or else Photoshop is not going to do what you want it to. I'm just going to erase. Again, because that's easier for me. If you guys have something else that works for you, then by all means, go for it. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to remove that as well, just because I don't really want it to have that 3D look to it. I just want it to be a material. So let's go to select that, edit, fill, content aware. Perfect. See, on images like this, it's so much easier to do the content aware because it's only having to look at, that one single material. So do the same thing with this one. Beautiful. Oops. This one looks pretty straight already. I'm going to redo that. Yeah. Okay. Is that all of them? Nope, I got one more. Not really liking that one straight. I think that material itself was cut kind of wonky. So let's try doing it from the top. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So let's start from here. Erase. And again, in this instance, the better thing to do would, if you remembered what materials you had used for a project, if you actually had, looked at a manufacturer and specified a material, the better option in this case would be to go and just find the image of that material online. However, in this case, I do not have this student's past materials, and for this purpose, we're just trying to show you guys how to um, edit something that you already have. So, for learning purposes. Okay, so now we've got our 4 materials here. Don't know how to count. I'm gonna make them a little bit smaller again, just so that I know what we're working with, because we're trying to fill this board essentially, and make it look like what it would if it were created digitally in the first place. So I have these materials now, and since I've got a lot on my page, I'm going to try and start putting these together in a more presentation style, and then we will work with these images here. So what I want to do in this case is I want to have both of my perspective images on one side of the screen. So another thing that I want to do is I want to have some guides. So I'm going to go and I'm going to turn on my rulers. And I'm going to bring one down that is set to oops. I'm going to add a guide. I want it to be horizontal at 0.5 inches, and then I'm going to go to window, view, new guide, horizontal. I want it at 10.5 inches because I have decided that I want to put a 1/2 inch border around my board, and I want to make sure that none of my images go over that and that they are all exact and precise. So these guides are going to help me do so. 5 and view, new guide, vertical, and I need it at 16.5. Alright, so let's see why that's not clicking up there. Okay, so those guides allow me, like I said, to make sure that this is even and exactly, my 1/2 inch. From the edges. Transform. And I want these images to be the same width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a guide. I'm going to bring it over from my ruler and I'm going to attach it to the edge of this photo. That way when I transform this photo here, I can get it lined up with that photo. And that way I know that they're all even and straight. So, and then what do I want to do with this one? I'm thinking that let's put him in the middle. What you could do essentially as well is just remake what the photo was as a Photoshop board itself. In this case, I'm just gonna rearrange these to make it look new. So, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put my materials down here. I'm gonna bring a guide down and attach it to the top of this guy. That way I make sure that all of my ones are the same length. Well, he's going to attach to that guy, so I'll just transform him here. Might have to make these a little bit smaller to get them all to fit. Yep. So, transform. And these are a little bit off, so I'm just going to use this bottom guide to get these all to be the same height. I'd say that's good enough, and I'm just going to separate them a little bit. Photoshop will tell me if they're the exact same length apart, and they are there. And then I'm going to make my image here the same width as them. So, oops, somehow that moved down a little bit. And I think that I want to make these a little bit bigger, bring them a little bit closer. Get rid of this guide here. All you gotta do is throw them back into your ruler if you want them to go away. I'm gonna get rid of this one too because I don't need him anymore. And so now I've got a pretty good layout here of my images. So what am I missing? Got some materials here. I want to keep this to make it look still like a pillow. And so I am going to take and quick select. Whoops, gotta make sure my layer's selected. What's going on here? Okay, there we go. So I want to quick select him. Gonna copy, paste. That looks like a little pillow there. And then these are kind of easy just because they're just colors, and so something that you can do to make them look a little bit less grainy is when you select them to bring them over, Control V, and make this larger. Whoops. I'm going to swatch this. Now select it. I'm going to, where's my, there it is. Swatch it. And this is just going to make it look more like a color, like a true color than something you've taken a photo of. And so it makes it look a little bit cleaner. Which, again, is just personal preference. These are going to be your boards, so you can pretty much do whatever you want to them. And what I'm going to do is deselect, bring this color over, and then do the same thing. Transform. I'm going to hold down, holding down on Shift allows me to transform it, you know, not to where it's just automatically staying the same size and width the whole time. I'm going to do the same thing with this one, swatch it, paint it. Deselect, back to my image. And that way too, the nice thing about doing it this way is I'm not destroying this image at all. So I've created an entire new board, but I haven't destroyed this original image. So what you could do is potentially have the before, say, you know, I had this picture, this is what I've created out of it, and then show, you know, basically your after of editing, and that's gonna showcase your Photoshop skills. And show, you know, whoever's looking at your portfolio or your projects that you know, were able to take what you had and create something new out of it. So, which is nice. Okay, I'm going to just to fill the space, make this a little bit bigger. I'm not going to bring that other swatch over just because, um, again, time purposes, I know this video has already been really, really long. So last things that I want to do is I want to add some text to identify what these materials are. So I'm going to take away my rulers and guides. I have these images here, and so I'm still going to overlay the text on these photos like what was done before. However, like in the case of it being text rather than a written, you know, block on your photo, it'll look a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to go to my text tool, horizontal type tool, and I'm going to click, and this is, we're just going to call this, I do these in all caps, kitchen perspective, and my text is preset right now. Let's make it something simple, make it a little bit bigger. Make it white since it's going to be on the photo. It's not what I want. All right, we're just going to label these as the rooms for now. So this is the kitchen. I'm just going to copy and paste that text. Oh, that looks like that's also the kitchen, so we'll just say kitchen. Again, you guys could, this would probably be named something different, but just for, again, learning purposes, showing you guys how to add text to these. So let's go back and see what they had said. I don't think they had these labeled. So this was the island trim. So I'm going to text trim and make these a little bit smaller. No, maybe a little bit bigger. 18. Trim, and then copy paste. What was the other one? Cabinets. This is also trim. So just leave that as is. Again, on yours you'd be a little bit more specific, but because this is just for video purposes, I'm going to leave it as is. Trim, and this is the flooring. It barely fits, but make it work. I'm going to center these since I'm going to center that last one. And then I'm going to name this elevation. And then I'm going to add a title to this top portion here. So my name is Kenzie Berkeley. I'm going to change that to black because I can't see white on white. Kenzie Berkeley, and we're going to call this Photoshop board. You are in DHM, I believe it's 3173 DDC. And there you go. You have created a new digital Photoshop board that can display your images, your materials, and anything that you had on a board that you had taken a photo of that you wanted to recreate. So sorry for that video being so long, but that's essentially how you would take images from something like this, or taking an image like this essentially and turning it into this. So there you have it.